All right, let's dive right into this explainer, covering a really fascinating article about how one exhausted 20-something turned a desperate late-night internet search into a totally new, low-risk financial reality. It's a story about hitting a massive wall with traditional work and finding a totally out-of-the-box path that might just completely change how you think about personal finance and risk.
Picture this, because we've literally all been there. We're mirroring the author's late-night inner monologue here. You're sitting in a dimly lit room, holding your smartphone, staring at a really depressing bank balance, and just wondering, is this exhausting life all there is? You're thinking, am I going to be stuck in this cycle forever? The workplace drama, the endless tasks, the paycheck that barely covers the rent? That profound feeling of being trapped? Well, that is exactly what drove our author to desperately search for a lifeline.
So, to understand their breakthrough, Section 1 looks at late-night despair and the very real limits of the daily grind. Because, let's face it, traditional avenues just lead to a dead end. Pushing harder at your salaried 9 to 5, your income is totally capped by seniority, and inflation quickly eats up whatever tiny raise you manage to scrape together. Okay, so what about side hustles? Things like point-gathering apps or point katsu. You're spending hours of mindless scrolling for absolute pennies. And reselling? Oh man, you take on massive inventory risk and get the sheer joy of handling exhausting customer complaints after you just worked a 10-hour day. All of these just drain your physical stamina. They don't actually offer a fundamental financial solution. Okay, so what's the actual fix? That brings us to Section 2, how prop firms work. The author discovered something called a proprietary trading firm, or prop firm. And here's the absolute game changer. Instead of draining your own scarce savings, you use the company's funds. We're talking potentially millions. Basically, you pass an evaluation or an exam proving you can trade responsibly. Once you do, they literally hand you the capital to trade with. And when you make a profit, you keep a huge percentage of it. I know, it sounds almost too good to be true, right? Honestly, that's exactly what the author thought at first too. But the crucial point here, the real aha moment, is the dramatic shift in personal risk. With traditional FX or stock trading, you put your own hard-earned savings on the line. One bad move could literally mean financial ruin. Terrifying, right? But with prop firms, because you are leveraging company capital, your personal financial risk is strictly capped. It's limited entirely to whatever small fee you paid to take the initial exam. This logical contrast right here is what convinced the author this wasn't some shady scam, but a highly rational alternative for someone starting with very little cash. So out of all the options out there, why did the author go with a firm called FinToke? Let's look at Section 3. FinToke essentially acts as a perfect, safe sandbox. The barrier to entry is incredibly low, starting at just a few thousand yen, which is basically pocket money. Plus, it offers reliable native language support, which builds immediate trust compared to trying to navigate some confusing foreign platform. This means you can treat the evaluation phase like a highly realistic, totally zero-stress demo environment. You get to prove to yourself that your strategies actually work, entirely eliminating that paralyzing fear of losing your own personal capital. But passing that exam isn't a walk in the park. Which brings us to Section 4, reset buttons and white rules. You see, passing a prop firm exam isn't just about market knowledge. It requires incredibly strict psychology. To explain this, the author uses two brilliant workplace metaphors to transform super abstract trading jargon, like stop loss and drawdown, into highly relatable everyday corporate survival skills. In Japanese business culture, a white company is the exact opposite of a toxic, overworking black company. It's a place with healthy boundaries and good, fair rules. Let's break down exactly how these metaphors apply to trading. First up, the mental reset button. This is the author's way of dealing with the dreaded stop loss. Look, nobody likes admitting they're wrong and taking a financial hit. But if you don't hit this mental reset button, emotions completely take over. You start revenge trading, you break your rules, and ultimately, you fail the exam. The trick is to treat a losing trade just like you would a toxic boss. You just mechanically cut them out of your focus to protect your mental health and maintain your objectivity. Next, we have the white company rules, which translates to strict fund management. Prop firms have hard drawdown limits, meaning a strict cap on how much money you're allowed to lose in a single day or overall. And here's a crazy fact. 90% of people fail these exams not because of bad trading techniques, but because they overwork their accounts and totally ignore these stamina rules. You have to manage your trades so you always leave 20% of your emotional and financial stamina in the tank before you clock out for the day. You never, ever push yourself to the absolute breaking point. So where does this all lead? Section 5,
moving towards an ideal working style.
Look, success definitely did not happen overnight for the author. It was a step-by-step process. It started with deep information gathering to truly understand the parameters of the challenge. That knowledge led straight into using a demo environment to safely test strategies in real time. From there, it was all about practicing psychological discipline, really mastering that mental reset button. And when failure inevitably happened, they didn't quit. They analyzed the data and re-challenged. It's a continuous, iterative journey from failure to a consistent income stream.
And this isn't just about trading anymore. Whether you want to change careers, start a different side hustle, or simply just reclaim your time, the framework is exactly the same. Deepen your self-analysis to figure out what you actually value. Gather information from experts who are already where you want to be. Take small, risk-free actions. But most importantly, do not just passively consume information. You have to turn it into active questions. That is how you deepen your understanding and actually move forward.
So you've got the roadmap now. How will you turn tonight's curiosity into tomorrow's reality? The author used their desperation to find a structured, low-risk way out of the daily grind. They shifted the financial risk to a firm, mastered their own psychology, and took actionable, step-by-step moves. So I'll leave you with this. Will tomorrow night just be another "today is over too," or will it be the night you start leveraging someone else's capital to build your own freedom? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.